Go.
Look, I'm on brand today. I got a free t-shirt. I was like, let's go.
Check you out.
Exactly. So, hello and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Recruiter Club. This is our first episode in our second series, and I am very, very happy to invite you on, Ben. And Ben is a bit of a guru when it comes to employer branding, aren't you?
I really hate that term, but there's too many gurus and ninjas and Jedis out there. No, I'm an enthusiast with a lot of experience, but
Enthusiast.
always
There we go.
learning. Yes.
Fantastic. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about you and what you're up to?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Ben Phillips. Currently in between roles. I've been quite public about the experience I've been through with recent redundancy. But what am I doing? I'm using this time to continue my own learning around EVP and employer branding and culture and talent marketing. I'm sharing some of that with the LinkedIn content that I'm sharing, and I'm preparing hopefully for my next gig, which hopefully won't be too far in the future.
I'm sure it won't be. And the content, I think that's how we connected, wasn't it? I saw some of your content. And this is why I started the Holistic Recruiter Club, because I was so tired of seeing so much crap out there. And I was like, right, I just want to connect with people who are doing
company excluded, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is why this is what I'm just clear. Yeah, that is clear.
You've put me on here for a public flogging with my crap content. You didn't. That's not how you pitched this to me, I've got to say.
and the stuff that you've been putting out has been really good, and especially like the most recent things you've been putting out. And the thing I've really enjoyed is how when you're publishing it, you're kind of like updating it in real time, right? So you're taking that feedback from people, you're kind of seeing whether you agree with it or not, and then you're kind of, going back and editing it to refine it, which I think is exactly the right way to do it. You don't always have to take the advice. You can listen to it, process it, and then you can decide what to do. But for anyone that hasn't necessarily seen your content, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is you're sharing and why you're sharing it?
Yeah, so I guess it would have a bit of context about my background. So if I look at my career, and as you can see by the grey in my beard, it's been rather a long one. I've been very fortunate. So there's a few threads that I've been able to pull through, and that's an interest in people, communication, technology, and content. And I've just been very lucky to be able to pull those threads through into, at the start of my career, recruitment, L&D, learning and development, culture transformation, marketing, consumer marketing, employer marketing, talent branding. But it's always those things: people, communication, content, and technology. And that's where a lot of my enthusiasm for this space comes from, because I've had that experience. I'm quite passionate about employer branding, and talent marketing has to come from the inside out. It starts with culture, which then feeds the EVP and so on and so forth. So I share content about that, really. And I've been fortunate that I've worked in multiple industries, multiple sized companies, huge companies, Tesco, IBM, and smaller companies, startups, scale-ups, SMEs, which I think has given me a fabulous perspective. So I think I've not unique, but I've got that slight advantage where I can share content from different perspectives. So if you're in a large, huge global corporate, I can share things that I have experienced. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. This is just what I've experienced and what I've done. But also I've been in those smaller environments where that lofty, big global stuff just doesn't resonate with that audience, because they're like, well, I don't have that budget. I'm not dealing with 16 cultures. So that's why I share it, to get it out there, to help people at those different ends of those multiple spectrums.
Yeah.
And I'm quite passionate about making it, where possible, practical and pragmatic. There's a lot of lofty philosophical theory out there, which you can just find by a simple prompt in ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
But then people look at it and go, yeah, okay, great, but how? Okay, but now what? Well, I know, thanks for telling me what it is, but in my context, in my company, how do you give people something they can actually take away and go, I can actually run with this? And exactly. I think we're going to come on to that later.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that if we can get that across in this podcast, it really is about how can people take some actions. What can they take from this conversation that we have, where more and more people that are in TA are being asked to get involved in employer branding initiatives. more companies, I believe, are hiring employer branding people. And it's not just about creating a career site. Okay. Yes, there's an element of it, right? But EVP, as you mentioned,
Hmm.
recruitment marketing,
Hmm.
employer branding, like there's a
Hmm.
lot of stuff going on here. Do
Yes.
you want to try and break it down for people who are maybe new to this or in it and just trying to understand what the real differences between or nuanced differences between all of them are?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's really important to start this off always with there's some obviously wrong stuff, there's some obviously right stuff, but there is a lot of muddied water. So my definition is maybe slightly different to yours, and that's absolutely fine. It's not about being dogmatic about it, saying, no, but it is this. And I think that's reflective of what you mentioned earlier. I respond to people in the comments who say, oh, I think it's this. I said, that's cool. If that works for you, you do you. But I think it's that you got to that is quite important. So my interpretation, and I like to keep things simple. EVP, right? And there's some fabulous analogies out there. Vicky Saunders talks about the Mars bar, which is great. Marcus Body speaks about the house, and I'll use that one in this. EVP, right? It is your. I shared something recently about the 5 Ps: pay, perks. So pays you obviously your salary. It's the things you get. Some people call it the give and the get. Some people just say it should just focus on what the get is because the give is covered elsewhere ad nauseum. It's on competency frameworks, it's in the job ad, it's on the website. This is what you need to give us to get all this stuff I'm about to go through. But what you get, right, it's your pay, your salary, your perks, your bonuses, your commissions, your stock options, if that exists. Prospects, career development, and trajectory and speed. But not just that, is the company expanding? Is it growing its footfall, whatever that might be? If you're in SaaS or technology, what's the product roadmap like for different audiences, right? So if I'm in sales, I want a product with a great reputation because I'm a salesperson, so I'm coin operated, and I want to be able to make sales, and I want that to be as easy as possible. So is it a good reputation? Is it going to be a hard sell or an easy sell? Or if I'm an engineer or a product person, is there a good roadmap? Because I want to be able to make an impact. So those type of prospects as well. So individual prospects and prospects of the company and your ability to influence and impact that. Talk about a positive environment. Is it flexible working? Do you do any work with charities and to give back to the community? That kind of thing. And then you've got your cultural pillars, the 5th P, using it very tenuously. CP, around the leadership and their behaviours and how you communicate and the systems and how people are rewarded and are they recognised. And the way you reward and recognise people, is that tied back to the culture you're trying to exude? Hey, we're really friendly and we're warm and we're integrity, but Bob's your best salesperson who's a bit of an arsehole and no one does anything about it. So, those kind of things. Yeah, great culture, really, but there's a real living fact that you're just giving it lip service. That's a true test of culture, right? If you want to say that you're that thing, but you're that behaviour, people get away with it. So anyway, that's EVP. Those are the things. It's the logical stuff. Imagine you're buying a house, and if you haven't bought a property or rented a property, the logical things you want on that property, and I've stolen this from Marcus Body, is I want X bedrooms, I want parking, I want good transport links, I want good schools, blah, blah, blah. It's the logical stuff you use to decide whether you're going to go and work for someone. Then you get into employer branding. Employer branding is, and people will disagree with this, but to keep it simple, it is the creative expression and identity that creates the mental associations that reflect your culture and EVP that you want people to have of you over the long term.
Okay, make that simpler.
Make that simpler. So your EVP is all those logical things I've just mentioned. You're buying a house, how many bedrooms, da, da, da. Now I can walk into 5 houses, it has all those things, but I'm not getting it, I don't want to buy it. I walk into one house and out of nowhere, it's a heart thing, it's an instinct, it comes from the gut. I go, this is the one, this is it. And that is what the purpose of branding is to do, is to build that association over the long term. So whether I'm looking or not, let's say I'm a passive candidate, I'm not looking, At one point I am. And for some reason, I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm looking for a job that pays this, in this location, in this type of company. I've looked at 3 or 4, and I'm like, oh, don't know. But I see your one, and I can't, it's just that gut, this is the one for me.
Yeah.
And that is the purpose of branding. It's the emotional side of that
Agreed.
equation. EVP is logic, branding is emotional association for positive mental priming. Now, how do you do that? Some of it is down to your identity, visual identity, how you speak, how you turn up when you're out in the wild. And there's a really basic example. I don't know if you've seen this, but as a great example, say you are a culture that's really fast-paced, really edgy, slightly aggressive, very competitive, high performance. How do you represent that in color and shape? So if I put up a green circle and a red triangle with edges and points, and I said, which of those shapes and colors represent that culture? Which would you say?
You're actually asking me.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the sharp edges.
And that's just a small example. It's more complex than that. But that's how you build the brand through your identity. What are you trying to be? And how do you represent that in your tone and your colour palettes and what you speak? Now, people say, oh, but branding's so much deeper than that. It's not a logo. It's not. I agree. But I think I mentioned the muddy water. I think it has to portray that EVP and culture, and you do that through a visual identity.
And there's something that I do like a culture workshop, and it basically it effectively at the end of it gives you this. I don't know how to describe it, but for me, it's a bit like the heart of the company, right? Because it tells you who are you really deeply, right? What are your brand archetypes when you're communicating externally? And what does that actually mean? And how do people perceive you versus what your people think you're doing and all that type of stuff? And then you can really start to understand how you're communicating to people. So are you this, like you said, are you this super hyper aggressive company? But that might be okay. If you look at something like, let's look at someone like McKinsey.
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, or McKinsey. I'll go with McKinsey just because I've used this one before. We would really describe them as as a penguin culture, right? Which is we're going hard. If you fall down, we're leaving you. But unfortunately, that's just how it is. We need to get over there as quick as possible. We can't stop, right? It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means we all need to go together. So sorry, thanks, bye-bye. But this works for them. Right. And then you have this bear culture, which is very much like, oh, come on, everything's going to be all right. Come on, let's go together. And you've fallen over. Don't worry. You can get up and we can go together. And it's how do you communicate that very effectively? So the reason why I'm going on this tangent is because how do you communicate? No, how do I frame this? Your culture is, as you said, Bob's a bit of a dick, right? He's head of sales, arrogant, boom, 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 boom. But the rest of the business is quite nice, but you still have to deal with him because there's some area of toxicity around that, right? How do you effectively portray your business in a way that attracts people, that doesn't make them want to leave within the first 3 to 6 months? As a study from McKinsey did show that the most common thing that people will leave for in the first 3 to 6 months is because the culture is not aligned with the interview in which they were told versus the reality in the day-to-day. And is that even your responsibility or any kind of responsibility to you? So that was a long-winded way of asking you that question. But I thought it was quite good to give like the big picture first.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, we are venturing into the first buzzword bingo of the day, authenticity, quote unquote. Bit of vomit enters the mouth. Lots of people talk about authenticity when it comes to their employer branding and talent marketing. And I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about authenticity because what you see on LinkedIn, let's pick on LinkedIn, let's do some LinkedIn bashing. Not the platform, the people posting on LinkedIn. And I get why it happens, but all you see is the positivity, the unicorns, the candy floss, the butterflies of our culture. We are great. And that might be authentic, but authenticity is a two-sided coin, right? And all they talk about is the triumphs. There's very rarely any mention of the trials and the tribulations. And what we're not good at, every company, right? We're all adults. Every company has its great parts and its not so great parts. So to your point, you've done some great content and everyone's showing the fluffy, happy yay, we're all high-fiving each other and look at us playing on the foosball table, which people still do, even though that's employer branding 1.0 circa 2010. And we say, we're really innovative, or we're really collaborative. But what does that really mean? The good and the bad, the salt with the sugar. Because you've got to really help people understand, in every role, there's going to be challenges. We're really innovative, which means we're scrappy, and we're innovative because we don't have resources, so we've got to think differently. So
we have no budget, probably.
And we've got no budget. So if you're coming from a place where you've had abundance of resources and that's what you like, then you're probably going to really struggle here, or be up for the fight, and you've got to think differently. Because innovation comes from lack of resources, not an abundance of it. The lack of resources forces you, as I said, to think differently. Or, yeah, we're really collaborative. But what does that mean? So you're so collaborative that everyone has an opinion, and it's decision by committee, and it can take months to move something forward, and you're used to coming from a place where those decisions are made in days, then you're going to need perseverance and you're going to need patience.
Was it you that posted about this the other day? The translation of the words in the job specs. Was it you?
Yes.
Was you? Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah, that was a brilliant one.
Thank you. I probably stole it from somebody else and just made it my own, to be honest. It's never, I'm not a thought leader. I'm a thought regurgitator, is what I tell people. There's thought leader. We'll talk about thought leadership again, but let's move on before I go off on another tangent. And that, going to your point, that's how you do it. So, we're the other one I said was we're high performing, which means we are uber competitive. These people are captains of their school sports teams. They are winners. They are high energy. These guys don't sleep, and girls don't sleep. So it's all right being high potential, but there's always a give and a take, right? What are you prepared to sacrifice? If you want the honey, are you prepared to put your hand in the hive? And that's what we've got to get better at doing, showing the latter part of that sentence.
Yeah.
Because then when I turn up, it's like, well, that guy's a bit tough, but they warned me about this. He's not tough, he's just direct, he's candid. And I've come from an environment where it's all fluffy, and then people don't really say what they mean, and you've got to read between the lines. But here I love it, because you know exactly where you stand. So I think that answers your question. How do you do it? Now, the difficulty is, lots of people out there I know, both in conversation, would love to share that content, but then you get leadership nervousness. Oh, we can't do that. We can't.
Or the investors. What are the investors going to think?
Yeah.
Because they're doing their quarterly meeting, saying, "Oh, yeah, everything's hunky dory, everything's going really well, blah blah blah," and then they're sharing in the employer brand. This is what's really struggling. And I understand that vulnerability would be a good thing, but how do you overcome something like that?
But I think it's with the examples I shared, right? So if you take one of the examples I did post around innovation, and you say we've got no resources, that's fine. Okay. It's not because people default to you're being negative. No, I'm not being negative. We're just being genuine. This is the reality. These are the working realities of what it's like to work here. And if you're just revealing the real, I'm not saying as I said in my post, I'm not proposing everyone starts being super negative and showing the dark sides of their employment moons, right? What I'm saying is, if you can show people examples of how you can do it softly in a way that's still consultatively selling. I think it was you. That's how we engaged, right? We had a conversation about selling. I said reveal, and you said selling. That's how we first engaged. And then who was it that came in with a great explanation? It was Alex Herr came in. Congratulations on the new baby, by the way, Alex. I saw the post today. Reveal. If you say you're revealing as opposed to selling, when you say you're selling, it puts people in a mindset where I think they have to sell by hook or crook to convince everyone to want to join you. And I think that's a bad habit that's come over from consumer marketing, where every click's a good click, every visit to the site's a good visit, every sale's a good sale, because they want to sell their can of soda to 99% of the market. In employer branding and talent marketing, you flip that. You want 1%, 2% of the market to buy into you, not everybody. Yeah. And that's a bit of that messes people's heads when they don't know this space. So what can you do to appeal, but also repel? Because your recruiters will thank you for it, because they can't deal with 1,000 applicants for 10 hires. So how do you help just get? And again, I don't know who I'm seeing this from. We're not selling cans of Coke. We're selling houses. I don't want 1,000 people to buy a can of Coke. I want 10 people to look at my house and 3 people to make an offer. Unless you're doing volume recruitment and high attrition, high work environments where it's maybe a bit more like consumer marketing, but let's say white collar, mid management and arts, the world I'm familiar with and used to. So if you're saying you've got to equally appeal and repel, then it can just make leaders feel a bit more, okay, I get it. Go and tell our truth. Don't make us look bad, but say, hey, we're really innovative. So you've got to be scrappy. We're bootstrapping this. You've got to roll your sleeves up. Because then I can go, and actually, I prefer strategy. I haven't been on the tools for years. I don't know how to use Canva and do a social post. Well, in this role, you need to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe not right for you. You're not being negative. It's positive, right?
It's a qualification criteria in some ways, right?
Ways, yeah.
So, and on that, right, when you come, so something I'm really geeky about is data, okay?
Yeah.
And I think employer branding is one of those ones where it's quite hard to show the ROI because a lot of people don't know what metrics you should be following, or they don't even, they don't set the goals at the beginning to see if there's anything. Even if it was like, if you were in a larger organization, sentiment analysis on social posts about your business or certain areas and this type of stuff, which can quite effectively be done now with a lot of the tools that are out there. So I just wondered if you're starting out in employer branding, or no, you're starting a new project in employer branding, right? Because every single company has an employer brand, whether you work on it or not, right? This is what I've also learned. So, but you're now deciding to take an effort on it. So where should they start? What should they take a snapshot of now? And should they keep continuing to check on that pulse of whether it's working or not? Or is that not something they should be doing?
You touched on the crucial part. I'm going to hone in on it. You flew past it. What are you trying to achieve? Strategy 101. And I think a lot of employer brands and telemarketers, they fall out of marketing or recruitment or comms, and they fall into this space. And because they're usually lesser experienced earlier on in their career, they're at the stage where it's all about do. If I'm not doing something, I'm not busy. And as you get, more experienced or get exposure to different things, it's, well, before you do, let's think. Because it's very much a mentality of, because the pressures, because leadership, it's the lack of knowledge. They think that employer branding is about putting pretty pictures on LinkedIn and on the website. It's very much a mentality of ready, fire, aim. And as you get a bit older and a bit wise, you go, no shit, actually, let's aim first and then we'll fire, right? So what are you trying to achieve? Now, why do you need to build your employer brand? Is it because you need to change the perception of the business? Because you've got a issue with gender diversity and you're going to use your brand to attract new females? How many females do you have? How many females are in the pipeline? How many females are in the funnel? And then you do something to employ a brand and you get your benchmarks, and you can see, well, are the branding efforts, which we're then communicating through our marketing efforts, changing that? You may have a cost reduction issue, or you may have a problem with time, on average, it's taking 30 days for the people we hire to make their original application. So if we can change the branding to get those people to apply quicker, then we can you can impact bottom line. Like I've got an example of that. I worked with Nick Thompson at IBM, and we did a rudimentary calculation around what's the potential impact to revenue that everyone in this business has? And at IBM, the figures were huge, right? And you can Google all this, so it's not sensitive information. But I think their turnover at the time was ridiculous, like $55 billion. Not short of a few bob, that's for sure. And they employed 220,000 people globally. And then again, this is where you get the wheelbarrow of grains of salt, but it's something. And you go, right, so if everyone's in a commercial business, then in theory, they should be potentially contributing to the revenue of that business, because if not, why are you there? So you go, well, take that 55 billion, divide it by 220,000 employees. I think we calculated by 365 days that every employee, and this, as I said, this is rudimentary, grains of salt people, every employee contributes $550 per day to the revenue. Now, yes, you could argue that depending where you are, you could weight that. If you're in sales, then it's a heavier weighting because you have a direct correlation to the top line, right? You make a sale, top line spikes, you don't. It's not
on average.
But anyway,
yeah,
on average, $550 per day, per person in that business, potential impact to revenue. And we go, okay, well, as talent marketers and branders, if our efforts make people apply faster, and again, everything being equal, they then can be hired faster, bearing in mind that loads of issues with that, because people could be rubbish recruiters or hiring managers that sit on CVs after the point of application. But let's say all's well. If we can get someone to apply 10 days faster, well, and they can start 10 days faster, well, 10 times $550 is $5,500. Times 3,000 hires, you go, shit, that's $1.5 million. So if our branding effort, and we can, all everything else being equal, but if we change something in our branding, which then influences the communication we're doing in our marketing, and we put a line on the graph and go, everything else is the same. All we've done is change those things. Now we're seeing this increase in time to apply. You go, holy crap. We've made people apply 10 days quicker. And just to clarify, that's those who are successfully hired, how long it takes those to apply.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
time to apply, because as soon as an advert goes live, you start getting applications in. Well, that's if you've got a commercial challenge. Some of your bosses may not be thinking about cost reduction, but again, it's another example of how you can really practically and pragmatically. And again, you take it to your stakeholders and you're open and you go, look, I know you can pick holes in this. And then that's where the consultation begins. Are you happy with these figures? Is it reasonable? Will it stand up to the CFO test, I call it? CFOs being, laser sharp on the numbers. And they go, well, yes, maybe 80% of it, but we don't have anything else. So let's go with it.
It's a starting point.
Correct. And there's other examples I could give, but I feel we'll run out of time.
No, but this is the thing, right? With the metrics, and I think it comes back. You touched on something that I've spoken about before, which is that I believe there's a big skills gap in the talent acquisition space, right? I believe that there is such varied levels of experience and expertise. And one of the biggest skills I think is missing, and it's the one that separates the average recruiter to the top people in the space, and even talent acquisition roles in general, like employer branding, is how do you define the problem? What is the problem statement? How do you frame that problem and then reframe that problem until you come up with an actual problem statement that is actually going to help you win that situation? To define that, because so many people don't do this. They just go exactly like you're saying, 2 feet in, they do something, and unfortunately it does absolutely nothing. I said this before in one of my other podcasts. It's like a running joke at one company I was at before. We were like, oh my God, we've got this opportunity to advertise on EasyJet. It's like barely anything. Let's go for it. And we were like, right, let's just go for it. Next thing you know, everyone's coming back to the office with when they were traveling around, and they go, no, we're in EasyJet. And they're like, what the bloody hell did you do that for? How do we even know if this works or not? What effect has that had?
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
We're like, maybe we shouldn't have done that so quickly, but it's like...
But it comes back to strategy 101.
Exactly.
What are you trying to achieve?
Exactly.
What's the problem definition?
Exactly.
It's the Einstein quote, right? If I had an hour to solve a problem, 95% or 55 minutes would be defining the problem.
Exactly.
Because once I know what the problem is, I only need 5 minutes to solve it.
Exactly. But then sometimes people in such a sense of urgency that they'll just do anything to try and affect anything because of pressures, because of external stuff that's happening. And sometimes you need someone to go, whoa.
What are we here for? What are we doing? What's the purpose?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that you hit on that was really, really important. And it's being able to go, right, once we've defined this now, we know what our problem is. This is what we are going to measure, right, to see the impact on this, because these are the metrics that are relevant to that. We're going to take a snapshot right now, and then we agree on a period in which we're going to report on this to see what impact it's actually had. And then we need to think, right, we actually might need to change our strategy here because it's not working, and be big enough to be and not stubborn enough to go, no, we're stuck with it. We're going to stick with it. It's okay to change. Look at the military. They do it all the time. Ben Ford, who I had on before, he was an ex-Marine and he's now an engineer. And he got thumbs up here. I didn't know that happened.
Your camera likes Ben Ford,
exactly.
obviously.
And he was saying that it's being able to be in that situation and being able to adapt, right? Can you adapt effectively? Not just keep going through, going, right, this isn't working, let's just crack on. It's like, no, let's stop a second.
Because it comes down to sunk costs, right?
Exactly,
and that's very hard.
Exactly. But it's better to be able to take that step back. And I really like I really liked how you explained that, because it's super important. And so we've done this. How do people report on that? Because that's another thing, right? is there a specific tool you use? Because from my understanding, there's a lot of data in different silos, right? You might have
Yes.
your website that people aren't even, your actual career site where people are not even measuring or looking at who's coming to your site and returning to your site and then retargeting them, right? Not many companies are doing this.
No.
So how do you get all that data together? Is there a specific tool you use, or is it manual? Like what recommendations do you have for people when it comes to that?
So, I'll start at a lofty best practice level of what I do and what I've done in my last 2 roles in really large companies when I joined IBM and a smaller company when I joined Happening. And I'm so glad you brought this up because it's really important. You could have all these grand plans to measure all these things, but then you get into the weeds, right? And you realize, well, either A, they don't have the data, or they do have the data, but it's disconnected, or they have the data, but I can't access it. And to your point, it's over here, and it's disconnected and it's disparate. So with everything, and you talk about sentiment analysis. When I worked at Tesco in their marketing team, we did sentiment analysis. And this was, crikey, nearly 10 years ago. They paid considerable amounts of money to Brandwatch to do that sentiment analysis. And it is difficult and it is complex if you do it properly. Because in the consumer space, you can take your brand name and you can associate it with positive words like love and like. It's very difficult to do it in employer branding because they've mentioned your company, but they don't usually say Acme Inc., work, job, love, like. I mean, it's just
exactly. I understand what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, for our sentiment analysis, go on Glassdoor and have we gone from 3 stars to 4 stars? That's what a lot of people talk about sentiment analysis in our world. And we all know the problems with that in terms of, gaming the system and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we've never given you any perks ever, but you know what? If you come to the boardroom, we're going to give you some biscuits. Oh, and by the way, can you please update Glassdoor to say we're doing it well? And then they do that for the next 6 weeks.
So with anything, you'll go in and people think they're going to get perfection straight away, and you're not. Most times it's and again, this is down to expectations. So they commit to something with their stakeholders. Yeah, we'll do that. And then they'll go away and go, oh shit, we can't because we don't have the tech, we don't have the data, and it's not connected. So with everything, get your foundations. I talk about 3 phases, right? Minimize. Get the basics of some data. You might be setting your own benchmarks, but minimize. MVP, that's for my product and SaaS tech background. Yep. They talk about MVPs, minimal viable products.
Agreed.
And that might be, again, context dependent. That might be 4 weeks. It might be 3 months. It might be half a year, whatever it, based on your scenario. Get something. Build a MVP dashboard. Build it on what your stakeholders care about, not what you care about. That's the important thing. What do your stakeholders care about? Create it in a dashboard. Minimize that.
And would you mean, and Ben, sorry, just to click, do you mean build that in somewhere like what the stakeholders use, like Sheets or Excel, or do you mean
whatever tools are at your disposal?
So it's like,
may have.
Do you mean what they like to use, right? So it's familiar to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. It could be Excel, which usually in our space that's where it is, or you might have a fancy ATS which is connected to the CRM, which sucks it into Tableau, and you've got a data analyst who can make it all pretty for you.
Well, that would be marvelous. How many companies have this, right?
Correct. And that's the thing; it's so context dependent. Now, IBM were quite sophisticated,
of course,
relative to the companies I've worked for. People in IBM might go, "No, we weren't." But I've had that experience of other companies of different shapes and sizes. Exactly. So I go, you know, don't beat yourself up. You guys are doing really well. So minimize, get something that your stakeholders are happy with, then standardize. You know, grease the wheels of the machine. You're getting into a rhythm. You're getting into a flow. The first time you do it, it takes 2 weeks to get all the data together and put it together. The next time you do it, it takes 10 days. The next time you do it, it takes 5 days. And you get more efficient because you learn as you go, right? So you minimize, then you standardize. And then that might be, again, it might take you, again, context specific, 2 weeks, 3 months, whatever, standardize. Then optimize. What people try and do is bypass those first 2 phases and think they can go straight to optimize. It's like, you don't know where your data is. You don't know if you've got the tech. If you've got the tech, you don't know if it's connected to speaking to each other, blah, 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 right? And then how do you report it? As I've said, it's very difficult. What I've done in the past, it has been very manual and it's been in spreadsheets. I've had to get data from different sources and tie it together and try and paint a picture, which synthesize it and then relay it back in an easy to understand, comprehensible way that the people I'm reporting to care about.
Yeah.
And that's really important. People talk about measuring. How do you measure it? How do you measure it? Equally important, how do you report it in the language that your stakeholders understand? So I was guilty of this. And I don't know if it comes from a place of insecurity, but I wanted to create my wealth and that I knew what I was talking about. So I'd create reports that were long and full of marketing jargon because, yeah, look at me. I know what I'm talking about. I can use all these acronyms. I like great. And you give it to a senior leader, and they go, what the fucking lead? I don't even know what you're talking about. Just tell me, are you making me money? Are you saving me money? Are you making my customers happy?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
So, I've learned over the years, just what do you, Mr. Stakeholder, care about? And how do I give you that in a language that you will understand and take action on?
Yeah, exactly.
You go and, again, to prove your worth. If you're early in your career, here's my 50-deck slide of last month's activity.
But this is a typical TA. This is like the TA conundrum, and I think it's one of the things that anyone related to any form of TA activities falls into. It's not necessarily always considered the most valuable asset to a business. So we feel like we have to justify our action, justify what we're doing. This is not bringing me to tears. My hay fever has suddenly decided to start working right now. My eyes are not stopping to water. But it also brings me to tears.
I'm sitting there going, God, he's loving this. I brought the man to tears. I'm going to keep going.
But the thing that you said is measure, report, and the one extra thing I would just add on that is what actions do we need to do now? Because it's great we measure.
Take a step back.
Yeah, exactly. What do we need?
What do your stakeholders care about you measuring?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you measure all this stuff and they go, so?
Yeah,
that's why not even on my radar.
But do you not think that's exactly what you were saying? I don't know if we said it before we started talking or when we were talking about, you must get the stakeholder buy-in, right? You must build that relationship. And a lot of people in the TA space, you hear them talking about, yeah, but I don't have that impact. I'm not heard. I'm not listened to. But like you do is, what questions do you have to ask to get them to do it?
And you know what? You've just touched it. I'm not heard. I'm not listened to which I respond, well, are you listening and are you hearing? Speak to your stakeholder. What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
What do you need me to prioritize? What are you lying awake at night worrying about? And how can I help you take that pain away?
And it's being more consultative, right? And I think this is another missing skill. It's how to be assertive. Assertiveness has a bad rep. And it's super important in the sense that it's a very important way to be able to challenge and senior leaders and stuff like that. Because if you don't have that, and I don't mean being a dick, right? I mean having that assertiveness and that confidence to be able to go, well, why do you need me to do that? Or, well, if you don't give me this information, I can't do the work. So I'm going to pause your work until you come back to me. Katrina Collier talked about that a lot. And funny enough, as I was telling you, we were a little bit late starting this because I was talking to a chap who used to be setting up a talent intelligence platform unit inside AWS, and he was saying that really the whole of the TA sector or industry needs to move to being more consultative, and not just being order takers. And I think that ties into what you're saying, right?
Correct. It's strategic or transactional, consultative or transactional. We want at a really granular level. You speak to hiring manager. I need to hire 10 salespeople. Could you do a LinkedIn video about my team and post it on LinkedIn organically, and that will get us the hires
and make the job.
And the less experienced, the less experienced person will go, yeah, cool, okay. You said jump. I'm going to say how high. Brilliant. I'm off. As opposed to say, well, hang on. And I'm a big fan of solution-free briefs. I can't remember where I got this from, but it's so great. People will say, this is what I need, and this is how I want you to achieve it. Versus, and the example this person used was building a bridge. I need to get the cars from that side of the river to this side of the river. Can you build me a bridge? And the person goes, yeah, okay, I'll go build you a bridge. The more experienced consultancy person going, because they've given you the brief with the solution. I need to get cars from there to there, build me a bridge. Whereas a solution-free brief is, I need to get the cars from there to there, how do we do it? Because then the expert can go, well, And you might be right. You might need a bridge, but you might need a tunnel, or you could just do a diversion up, half a mile up the road. There is a road you can use, so you don't need a bridge. You need a signpost.
Exactly.
And it's getting people, but that takes confidence. I mean, I'm the wrong side of 45, right? So I've been on this rodeo. I've been in the trenches. I've got the scars. I've been scorned. I've had my knuckles rapped. You build up it takes resilience. It's hard to do that if you're fresh out of university or this is your first job, to have those conversations. And it's a mixture of being assertive, but also being humble and saying, oh, God, I don't know the answer to that. But, give me a few days. I'll go and find it for you, because I know the people to speak to, or I know the sources to go and read or watch or listen to get you the answer. So it's that assertiveness, but that doesn't always have to come from a place of confidence and you think you know all the answers. It's not about that. I don't know all the bloody answers.
Exactly. But I meant that is more about the challenge, to be able to be confident enough to challenge on that. There's Helen Lucien, who I used to work with, and she was also on a podcast last series, and she's a chief product CPO, right? And she was saying that really you should always, when gathering this information, focus on the outcome. What outcome are you looking for? Not the outputs, because the outcome is, what are you trying to achieve? Exactly, a bit like the problem you're solving for, but what do you want to happen? Okay, and then you leave it to the product team to go and do the user interviews and the research and the in-depth and the testing and all that kind of digging into the data to come back with potential outputs that will effectively help you get that outcome. And it's exactly what you're talking about, right?
At Tesco, we called it working future back, or was it Pizza Hut? God, I'm going back even longer in my career now. Future back. Start, and in the post I shared about ROI, recent post. Start with your output or your goals, and then you reverse engineer. So if I need to achieve that, I need to do this, and to do that, I need to do that, and to do that, and I need to do that. And a practical example might be, we want to make 250 hires. Okay, so as a marketer, let's go into marketing. We didn't talk about the definition of marketing. Maybe we'll come back to that. But as a marketer, we need 250 hires. So my first question is, okay, how many applications do you need per hire? I go, well, I need 10 applications per hire. Okay, so you need 2,500 applications. Right. Are you geared up to process those 2,500 applications? Because if you're not, and they're left sitting in an ATS with a bad experience, it's going to screw your employer brand. So all the employer branding work I'm doing up here, upstream, goes to the weakest link in the chain. If you do the whole UX piece, which again comes from my product background, design thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Process map the whole thing from attraction through to onboarding. Branding's great. People to the website, it's a great website. They land on the job description or job ad, it's a great job ad. But your recruitment team is not geared up for that. So again, start future, work backwards, understand where the weak and the links in the chain are, and honing on those to improve those. But to your point, it's and then you can take that even further, right? So you need 2,500 applications, right? How many visits do you need to your site for an application? Well, we need 50 site visits. Okay, so you need X many site visits. Right, how much does it cost you to get traffic to your site? Okay, so if you do this on a media and a talent marketing tactic through social or advertising, you're going to need £100,000 in media spend. You work from the future. This is what you need to do. Unpack it all the way back, and you go, that sounds like a sales strategy. Or people go, okay, maybe we need a different tactic because I haven't got 100,000 media spend. So what else can we do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's look at referrals. Let's look at employee advocacy. But then employee advocacy isn't a direct response game. It's a branding game. But it comes with experience and having those consultative conversations.
But it comes back to the point of what you said, is don't just say yes to doing something without really thinking about it. Because it's like, okay, well,
correct.
Okay, yeah, you're going to do it. And then all you do is you create frustration. And then there's this all the time. People are clashing. There's a misalignment. And you end up with more problems, right? And you need to go through
I spent 3.5 years in agency. 4 years in marketing age, not recruitment, because obviously that was when I left university. That's another story for another time. Marketing agency, and the challenge with that is you get account executives who are often, quite early on in their careers, and it's not their fault. They're great, highly intelligent. They just don't have the experience. And in client services, in some agencies, the mandate is please the client, make the client happy. So they interpret that. So, well, to make the client happy, I'm just going to do what they ask me to do because that's, I'm here to please the customer. So they'll say, well, they give them the solution, the brief with the solution. I want you to find me 10 salespeople with an organic LinkedIn ad. And the inexperienced account executive goes, yes, okay, we'll go and do that. Fully positive intentions, but they don't have the work experience, the life experience to be able to challenge back. So sometimes they need the account director or the client partner to then come in and say, whoa, don't agree to that.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they're lean agencies. If you have more people on the call, they charge by the hour, which then pisses the client off. Why do I need an army of 10? Well, if we just give the account executive, they're going to agree to something that they can't fulfill, which is going to piss you off. Oh, sorry. So yeah, it's easy to say this, but I fully empathise with. It's not about someone's fault. It's just having the right people in the room with the experience to have that assertive, consultative conversation.
Exactly. I definitely see a common pattern of this now. People are the TA space is starting to mature a little bit more, and they're starting to, I think for them to continue and to create more longevity in that role and not just being a feeder into HR, to create its own space, it has to be a bit more consultative so people can come to them and they're getting value from this.
But that's if the client wants that consultation. I've been speaking to an agency in my job search, and one of the challenges they've got is they have had feedback from their clients that they want to be more consultative. So, and this is how that plays out. So the client comes to the agency, they do can you do this, please? Here's the problem, and I'm going to give you the solution. The candidate runs off and goes, yes. The client's really happy. In one breath, great service. But in the next breath, because the mandate is JFDI, I'm stressed. I got time for this. I've got someone breathing down my neck. Just can do it. So off they go and do it. And then the next breath, it's you're not being strategic enough. And it's like, let me try and challenge you. And then you say, I don't have time to be challenged. Just freaking do it, please. So, it's this lovely complex world that we live in. This is what
I like about Katrina Collier's completely... she has... I've got a little clip of it. I'll send it to you after. She was... she said something like, you know what? If you don't give me your job description and you don't answer my questions, I am closing your job on the ATS and I'm not working it. So until you give me your attention, until you give me the information, good luck hiring from me. Right. And I've paraphrased what she's saying, but it's effectively what she's saying. And I like this. It's, but that comes with experience.
But again, but Katrina is, she's a fantastic lady. She's a multiple, best-selling author. So she can do that with credibility and gravitas.
Yeah, but I love it. But I love the fact that she's trying to empower people to just say, just go for it, this type of stuff.
Absolutely. And I remember when I was client side, right? When I was client side at Tesco dealing with marketing agencies, I had more respect for the ones that would push back and challenge me. The ones that came to the table with a proposal, if I challenged it with my less experience back then and they wilted in the breeze, I'd be like, so you have no confidence or conviction in what you're proposing?
Yeah.
And I remember one lady I used to work with at an agency, We Are Social, and she would always challenge me. And I'm like, this is what we pay for. So there might be, and I'd be upset maybe, and I'd get frustrated. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, this is what I need for my partners.
But in a way that you have to go in with your eyes wide open that that's what you're paying for, right? I'm conscious of the time that we've got left, and I really don't want to miss the opportunity to ask you about your definition of recruitment marketing, because you've already defined EVP, you've already spoken about the branding part. What do you think, and how would you describe, in your view of the world, recruitment marketing fits in as well?
So, there's a fantastic thing that popped up on my TikTok. And my TikTok is a great window into what I'm as a person. Quite strange, really. I won't go into all of it. But there's I don't know if anyone's seen it. There's a young Indian lady who says, and I've remembered it with the acronym RAPS, RAPPPS, right? And this is marketing. A circus is coming to town. Have you heard this one?
Yep.
You know this one?
No.
About the circus coming to town? Right, okay, so I'll share it. I'm sure some people have, but this isn't mine. Again, not a thought leader, I'm just a thought regurgitator. Everyone else has this stuff. Because circus is coming to town. If the circus goes and speaks to the local residents of that town and says, do you want the circus? And they get a good response, that's research. If the circus creates a poster, remember RAPS, that's advertising. If they put that poster on the arse of an elephant, and the elephant walks through the town, that's promotion. If the elephant then does a dance or juggles something with its trunk and the newspaper writes up about it, that's publicity. If the elephant juggling the balls makes the community laugh and they feel lovely and warm about the circus, that's PR. And if you've got people walking around the elephant telling people about the acts that are going to be there and the food stalls and the other bits of entertainment and the parking, that's sales. The planned coordination of all of that is marketing. And that is what recruitment marketing is. The research into your personas or whatever, planning the events, planning the social media campaigns. It might be PR, getting a local tech magazine to talk about what it's like working in your business, which I experienced in Croatia, with a tech company. That is marketing. It's all those things.
Fantastic.
I think I can't take credit for that. But it's just the perfect way to define it.
And it's the perfect way for me to be able to snip this and push it out as content, because that was fantastic. A great bit of storytelling.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish it was mine, but as I say, I just deal with what's the word? Still with pride.
No, but it's great. Okay. I have loved talking to you, Ben, again. And
likewise, Joyce. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I liked it. And this is going to be the first one that I'm going to have to put when I post on YouTube that there is swearing, and on Spotify, because I've realised that we're like so free flowing. We're just like, oh yes, but this is what it's about. We're just raw and
not too much. Hopefully, I hope it wasn't kind of Tourette's levels. Maybe
maybe
half a dozen.
Enough that I have to say on YouTube before it gets banned.
Not for children.
Exactly. I have to put this. And I would love it if we could just round up with your top tip for anyone that's maybe starting out in employer branding. They've been given this and it's not their area of expertise, but they've kind of got to jump in and they've got to own it because, limited on resources, time, money, everything, and they've been asked to do it, because I think there is a rising tide of people that are drowning in this at the moment. So anything you could give to them that could, I don't know, make them feel a bit more empowered and a little bit less underwater.
Yeah, don't do it. Run away. Save yourselves.
It's been a great podcast. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, cut that bit.
Yeah.
Or don't. I'll leave that with you. No, but seriously, I start. Look, I think we've touched on a couple of things. Depending on where you are, engage with your stakeholders and understand what they want and what they need. And this comes with experience. I appreciate that, but get under the skin of it. Do they really want that? And then start small. And just get the basics in place, because it's LinkedIn or whatever. If you're on LinkedIn, and it's like any other social media, you're seeing the show reels of people's lives, right? And it's no different on LinkedIn. You see people talking about, hey, we're in the metaverse, and I've used AI, and I'm guilty of it. I've shared how we used AI to repurpose content, and people go, oh my God, they're so far ahead of us. But you're only seeing a tiny slither of one thing where they might be. Everything else. And I say this with semi-jest, but there's a lot of truth in this. No one really knows what they're doing, right? Because the world is changing so quickly. Right. You think you know what you're doing on Monday, but by Tuesday, that's changed. To a certain extent, we're making it up as we go along. So take confidence in that. What works over there, you might look at it and go, oh, with, pouring at the glass of envy. But understand what your stakeholders want. What is the most basic thing you can do to move that forward, and then build from there? And it might be like it was for me at IBM, and this is IBM, right? Kind of, you'd think the most innovative, forward-thinking, ahead of the curve. The biggest thing we had to do at IBM was simplify and update all their job ads. We worked out that was going to have the biggest impact. And people go, that's boring. Maybe so. I found it quite exciting because I'm sad, but get to your point. What's the real problem? Define. If I had an hour, 55 minutes defining the problem, 5 minutes to fix it. So I would say that get close to the stakeholders, understand what they want, start basic, and build from there.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice, and I think anybody that is thinking about it should really consider this. And my 50 pence piece worth of advice is: be brave and fail. And don't worry about failing. Just go and fail. Fail again. Keep failing. Learn. Try something new. Fail again. And just be brave and bold enough to go out there, because LinkedIn is a fake social media generally. It's not the reality of every single company out there. Seeing a certain proportion of ones that are doing this amazing stuff and that could put pressure on you to think, oh, we're not doing enough. As you said, just keep it simple. Start from something very basic, and that will be enough to start.
And be inspired by some of the things you're seeing. But again, I go back to minimize, then standardize, and then optimize. And if you communicate in that way to your stakeholders, you manage expectations.
Exactly.
Because in all of those, you've got three other factors. People, they have the capability, the capacity, the commitment. No, we're going to talk about EB. What's that? I don't care about EB. Well, then you've got a problem straight away. Processes, systems. So we want to do all this measurement. Well, is the tech set up? How does it pass through? Or how does EB hand over to recruiting? What's the processes and systems in place for that? You may have nothing. You might minimize. You might have to set that up to begin with. And then platforms. What tech do you have? You want to do sentiment analysis? Good luck with that if you've got no money and you're not paying for Glassdoor and all these other things. So minimize, standardize, optimize people, processes, and platforms, and just build up.
Fantastic. So Ben, anybody that wants to get in contact or see what you're doing, where's the best place for them to follow and contact?
So you said that LinkedIn is a place for all kind of fake and lies and find me on LinkedIn because I'm feeding that piece.
Same.
But know this, I cry myself to sleep every night. So I may look like I'm having the time of my life, but really I'm not.
Oh, that's brilliant. But no, thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been brilliant.
Thanks for your time. Cheers, John.